Hello, this is Bronwyn Ailey, Local Food Systems and Small Farms Educator for the University of Illinois. And this week's Local Food Happenings at DSAC is going to focus on some crops other than what we have been looking at this season in the high tunnels. We're actually going to hear from Chris Evans, our state extension forester, who's located here at Dixon Springs, and he's going to talk a little bit about a couple of the agroforestry projects that research projects that he's looking at here on site in Southern Illinois at the Ag Center. We'll visit with him just a little bit, and he'll talk about some of the alley cropping and also some of the polyculture work that's being looked at here on site. So there are other things here at Dixon Springs pertaining to local foods besides just the fruit and vegetable crops that we are looking at in our 3 high tunnels. So again, we do have the agroforestry component as well as the animal science department and their research on beef cattle. And so with that, we'll hear a little bit from Chris on some of his agroforestry work.
Hi, I'm Chris Evans, Extension Forester here for the University of Illinois, based in Dixon Springs. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what we're doing here for agroforestry. Agroforestry as a concept really is integrating perennial crops like trees or shrubs with kind of traditional agriculture or food production, where you have multiple things going on in the same system. It's an idea of you get more productivity, you get more crops out of the same parcel of land, so you kind of hedge your bets against climatic conditions or crop failure. And it's somewhat of a new concept that's catching on. You'll see it a lot now in the Midwest. This site right here is one that we're looking at a practice called alley cropping. And so alley cropping is you're looking at planted tree rows. It could be for fruit production, nut production, even timber production. And then in between the rows, you're doing some kind of herbaceous crop. And so this site was actually planted in the late 70s or so. And when I came onto the Ag Center about 5 years ago, we converted this back into an alley cropping site. We're here with black walnuts. A little bit farther down, we have a couple other crops. But the idea is we're doing our black walnuts for either timber production, these are for nut production. And then in between them, we've had a series of different kind of crops. We've had beans in here, hay crops, things like that. This year, we're actually planting a forage crop in here that we're going to cut for silage. And again, we're getting the silage out kind of as an annual crop. And then we can use we're growing our walnuts in here for nut production or timber production later on. A lot of people do this with pecans, chestnuts, things like that. It's very popular when young tree plantings, or you're just starting a tree planting, you can get a crop out of that area before the trees are big enough to really start producing nuts or something like that. We're looking at different rows size. So this size here, you see we have a smaller row. You can see the crops in. The next row over to the north, it's a larger row. And so some of what we're trying to do is investigate kind of how that differs, how the production of the intercrop differs based on row spacing, tree size, tree species, and things like that. So here's another example of some of our agroforestry practices that we're looking at here at Dixon Springs. This is actually kind of a mirror of some campus-based research that we're looking at called Polyculture. And the idea is it's a different situation, a different site that people can use. And we try to do that at Dixon Springs, where we are companion sites, or people on campus can do research here at the station as well. But this is a polyculture site. And so the idea behind polyculture is you're mimicking a natural ecosystem by co-planting different species together, and it enhances their growth, it enhances what they need, and you get more production out of the same site. So on here, we're actually looking at overstory trees mixed with shrubs, and then also planted into kind of understory fruit crops, cane crops, and then with the potential of putting in an herbaceous crop. So you're mixing these 4 different kind of strata, mimicking a savanna or mimicking a forest, but in a food production system. We're just getting underway with this one, but we have Chinese chestnuts planted as our tree crop. We have elderberries as our shrub crop. Cane fruits, we have currants planted in here. And then in the rows in between, we have an opportunity to put some kind of herbaceous crop, whether it's a forage crop, a hay crop, or something like that mixed in here. It's an interesting kind of concept or way of looking at kind of the ecology behind food production, and then again mimicking more natural ecosystems. It'd be interesting to see how it develops over time. This year we're struggling a little bit simply because there's been so much rain. So getting in here and mowing it and keeping it neat and in order has been a little bit of a challenge. But over time we hope to see kind of see this multi-structure system develop with this polyculture planting.